What do you believe right now that's making you feel this way? And when you analyse it, you realise how irrational you can be at times.
Every single one of our major customers and minor customers all shut their doors overnight.
It's not sales per se, but the outcome of it is because people get to know you, they get to see you.
But, you know, what's the culture like at the business? What do we stand for, the values?
I've got to tick that box on my personal development program I don't really want to be here.
Scaling up a business isn't easy. If it were, we wouldn't have less than 4% of businesses scaling beyond 10 employees or around £1 million turnover level, and less than 1% beyond 50 employees. But the contribution that we make as owner-managers to our economies is immense and should never be underestimated. Yet it can be a tough gig for all of us at times, and only other business owners truly understand the challenges that we face. And through ScaleUp Radio, we aim to help make things a little easier. We interview guests who have been where you are now and may have faced some of the challenges that you are facing. And they offer their thoughts and advice on what has worked for them, as well as what didn't. And we've also combined many of the lessons from these interviews and also through working with hundreds of owner managers over the last 10 years or so into a practical scale-up handbook that we've called the Entrepreneurial Scale-Up System, or ESUS. And it's for owner managers like you and me as we navigate our own scale-up journey. And you can order a copy through your favourite online book retailer or by going to all the W's, esusgroup.co.uk, www.esusgroup.co.uk. Hello, I'm Kevin Brent, and on this episode of ScaleUp Radio, I talk with Roland Lees, who is the Corporate Sales Manager of Arctic Spas. And there's a clue in the name, you might guess what they do. They manufacture and supply hot tubs and other leisure goods for your garden. They've been in business for just over 20 years, and when they started out purely as a distribution company, but they've grown into a retail company whilst also moving into the international market. And like so many businesses that we've featured on ScaleUp Radio, they were affected by the pandemic, but actually it benefited them in many ways, as you'll hear. And we cover a lot of ground, as always, and the sort of things that we cover are being ready for business change, sometimes without planning. Roland and the team didn't plan to expand to retail, but when they saw the demand, they grew that side of the business. The benefits of keeping the team small, even if you're going to be working internationally, and they've done that very successfully, and working out maybe how long you could last if all of your business stopped suddenly. How much would you have in your pot to cover your operational costs? And no matter what industry you're in or where you are on your scale-up journey, you'll definitely find something in this episode that you can put into action straight away. Welcome to another episode of ScaleUp Radio. I'm here with Roland Lees of Arctic Spas, who is the Corporate Sales Manager. Roland, welcome to ScaleUp Radio.
Hello, sir. Thanks for having me.
Oh, great to have you on board. So, Arctic Spas, what's that all about? What do Arctic Spas do?
So basically, we manufacture and supply hot tubs and other leisure goods for the garden, saunas, barbecues, gazebos. But our core business is the hot tubs and spa, swim spa side. That's our main thing. Predominantly, we started off as a distribution company. That was our beginnings back in 2001. And then from there, we kind of, over the years, moved into some retail of our own. And then we've just grew since then.
And I think you've been part of the business since then, haven't you? Since 2001?
Yeah, just after, actually. So 22 years I've been with them. When the company started out, basically the owner here, he used to backpack with the owner in Canada. And then they started Arctic Spas in 94 in Canada. And then back in 2000, they were looking to open up into the UK/European market as they started to see a growth for hot tubs over here. So he got in touch with our MD because they were friends and asked if he wanted to head up an operation like that. And that began. After the first year, they needed someone else in the warehouse because basically there was just two of them, salesman and the owner. Right. So I came down to work in the warehouse. And then from there to now, the rest is just kind of history, really.
Okay. And it certainly seems to be an ever expanding market, or it has been for a little while. So what makes Arctic Spas different?
For us here, it's always been the fact that we are the manufacturer. So we can make decisions for our product quickly. For our marketing, we can make decisions quickly. We can adapt to changes in the economic climate quickly. I think that's always been our main USP. So especially for our retailers, independent retailers, and our own corporate, we can make changes much, much quicker, and there's no middlemen.
Okay.
We're dealing directly with the manufacturer, so there's no middlemen. And I think that over the years, our dealers have always appreciated that. We've never been about being the biggest, but we've certainly been about being the best at customer service, whether it's a business to business or business to customer. We've always been about having the best customer service, because at the end of the day, that's what sells products. It's the customer experience. Really bad after sales or even pre-sale care, then you're not going to survive. And I think that's why we've been here for so long and we keep striving forward, is because of that, our service and our support.
Very good. And where are they made? Where are they actually manufactured?
So we manufacture in Alberta, Canada. So we're the most northern manufacturer of hot tubs globally.
Right.
So they're over-engineered for our climates here in the UK and the majority of Europe, and designed to handle that really harsh Canadian weather, which they do really well. And obviously, especially with what's going on at the moment, everyone looking for the most efficient way to run electrical goods. That's our forte. Is offering a product that is really efficient, low running cost as well. So that's where we manufacture in Alberta, Canada. We also have a plant in Washington State as well, where we manufacture some of our cold tub products. That's our two main distribution centres, is based through those places, Alberta and Washington.
Okay. And then they're all shipped over to the UK. So how has things like Brexit affected that side of the business?
Yeah, that's a bit of a pain. Because we have a large dealer network, especially in France, dealers in Spain, and throughout the Baltic, getting into France and Southern Ireland as well. It's been a bit of a nightmare with the Brexit kicking in. It's just because it was a mess. There was no proper planning in there to deal with what happens when this arrives at the border now, because we're not in the EU.
Yeah.
So it was just, everybody was scratching around. It was as if they were just making things up, because the customs charges and the import fees were fluctuating. They're still fluctuating at this point.
Right.
Not as much, but they were back then. And some of them, it was as if they were plucking figures out the air, how much it should be to get into their countries. So Brexit was a bit of a mess. We're still the same as everybody that exports for the UK. We're still working through it at the moment, but it's getting better, certainly getting better. But obviously, it never helps anybody, especially customers over there, because freight costs have risen. Then you've got these other duty costs and customs costs and export costs, which have all risen as well. So, but it was expected all along, right? I'm sure everybody's aware that the hot tub game exploded in 2020, 2021 with the COVID pandemic. But we knew that, or anybody with half a brain actually could see that this was going to happen. It was going to, it can't continue forever. And these are obviously the repercussions and the ripples of COVID that are still affecting the world globally at the moment.
So how did you, as a company, deal with the increased demand then with COVID that you mentioned?
Well, basically, if we could remain open here with minimal staff, which was just three of us. It's the MD, his wife, and myself, actually, because we supply chemicals, because people have to still be able to sanitize their pools and their hot tubs and their swim spas. So we had the place still running because we still had orders to churn out, because COVID slower to take effect in some countries that we supply, so we still had to send out our goods to them. But basically for our end users, we would do video calls at the store, which worked really well actually, because when you have someone physically in the store, they can get distracted because there's obviously a lot of different products for them to go and look at.
Okay.
Try to get their attention and focus on what their actual needs and wants are, so we can provide them with the right product. It can be a bit more difficult because you're just focused on precisely what they're inquiring about. We'll pick a model or maybe two, and that's what we stick with. So we managed through that quite well, but it was impossible to keep up with demand. Impossible. we were getting like 150 inquiries via email a day, and no stores.
Right.
Because all the dealers had to close, all our corporate stores had to close. Everything was closed, as we know, because of the pandemic. So there was nowhere to put the leads. There's nowhere to put them. So best with what we had. And obviously afterwards, we've done a big follow-up, just apologising if we missed anybody, for them to get back in touch if they were still looking for any of the goods that we sell. But yeah, we knuckled down and we got through it. And it was insane. It was insane, really busy. It's the first time I've ever seen the warehouse empty, apart from when we first moved in. So
right, yeah, amazing times, and possibly also then we're almost having the reverse of that now. I guess, as you mentioned, everybody's concerned about energy costs and things like that. What would you say to people around that? I mean, you're saying yours are energy efficient ones, but how's that affecting you at the moment?
Well, certainly having an impact for sure, I'm not going to lie. But this time of year, it slows down anyway in our industry, always has. I think that stems from, historically, hot tubs came from the US and Canada, and because of their harsh winters, they can't ship goods out because they just can't get the transport because the winters are so harsh. So it always slows down this time of year anyway. But certainly with the energy costs, for us, we're lucky that we're one of the only manufacturers that our custom line of hot tubs and swim spas, they have a built-in power management system. So customers can put in exactly what their kilowatt per hour fee is for their energy supplier, and it'll tell them in real time exactly how much it's costing to run. So people can ask for specific figures from us. If they're looking at a particular model, we've got access to the customers who have purchased that model and can see how often they're using it and what their costs are going with their kilowatt per hour fee, and give customers accurate figures to work with, whereas everybody else just still does guessing. They're still guessing, because unless you've got someone actually using a hot tub and recording that data, you're plucking figures out the air again. You're just guessing, where we can give them pinpoint accuracy. So I think that certainly helped us. Last 23 years, our reputation has always been built on that we're engineered for the world's harshest climates, and that's why people still come to us, whether they've been referred from someone that's bought from us in the past, or they've just seen us over the years and read up about us. They know that they're buying something that's built to withstand a really harsh climate. And over here, we don't get anything like that in terms of weather. So, yeah, that certainly helps us a lot. And it's our history and reputation, I think, precedes us when people are looking at a luxury hot tub.
Yeah, good. And are you selling, is it a combination of selling direct to consumers, to the end user, and also then via some of the outlets that you're talking about? How does that work? How's it set up?
Yeah, so basically we've got two chains there. So we've got our independent retailers. So those are business-to-business customers. So we'll supply them with their stock, and they'll sell their either floor models, or they'll sell one from their stock list. Then they'll just basically from here, or if they're taking a few at a time, we'll ship them out to them, and then in turn they'll deliver them to the end user. And then we have our own corporate stores where we're selling direct to the end user. So we deal with the customers and the public directly. And we've been doing that for, I think, the last 17 years, I'd say, on our own corporate retail side. So yeah, and that was, we kind of diversed into that because, as I say, we were a distributor first and foremost. But it just made sense. We had a massive warehouse, put in a retail store, so it just made sense to break into the retail side. Certainly a different experience for dealing just with businesses, dealing with customers, but much more fun. Because at the end of the day, a hot tub's a fun thing. So the whole process of purchasing one and having it installed and set up should be fun as well. So it's great. You meet all these different individuals, and over the years, they've opened up relationships with businesses that then we help them, they help us. So it's really good.
So how many corporate stores are there?
At the moment, we're running with 5 corporate stores.
Yep.
And then into next year, we're looking to expand that again and spread out a bit more down this side of the border, England.
Yep. Which, of course, is where you're born and bred. I can tell from your accent, definitely in England.
Yeah, I've been working on this English accent for many a year. So we're looking to expand there, and I'll keep working on my English accent. Understand me. But yeah, so we're looking forward to next year. It will be a challenging year, it's certainly a hard year, but we're certainly looking forward to it.
Yeah. Sure. Are you dealing with European offices from here, or is that done direct from Canada? How does that side work?
No, we deal with them from here.
Okay.
We deal with them from here. So they're independent retailers that we have in mainland Europe, all their technical backup and support, their parts, their warranty, everything gets processed here in the UK. Troubleshooting any issues, they'll contact us directly here. If they need to order parts or anything like that, that all comes from us here at the UK distribution hub.
Great. So what's the setup in the UK then in terms of the people required to handle the business and to run the business?
So we've got a dedicated parts department. So basically they look after all parts, chemicals, accessories and the shipments for those. Over in Europe, we've got our own reps, barrier. I'm okay because I can speak this awesome English accent, but I can't speak French or Spanish or German. So we have reps over there that can speak to the dealers, liaise with the dealers, because we need the same backup and support for those guys as we just do here. Mm-hmm. So if they're doing shows or events, we offer support there. We can come and help them. And obviously we're troubleshooting with customers. We need to be able to ask specific questions step by step to figure out what the issue may be. Yeah, so we've got reps for that based over there as well.
Are they full-time employed?
Yeah, full-time, yeah.
Okay, so how many people have you got altogether within the business?
I'd say 26.
26, okay.
Yeah.
And how's the senior leadership team structured then to keep control of everything?
So basically, as I said, managing director.
Yeah.
Who's going to oversees everything. Kind of only breakaway department that we've got there is head of accounts. Obviously looks after all the accounts.
Yeah.
Myself looking after the sales side, which is also partly liaising with dealers here in the UK. And then we've got our warranty and technical support side and our parts department. It's not huge. We've always wanted to keep it as small as possible.
Yeah.
In terms of the number of employees, systems in place that we've developed over all these years to keep things moving, streamlined. So it means we don't need to have tons and tons of people. Which is great, and things work well. But if we need to expand and bring in more people, we've got the processes and systems in place that it's easy to bring someone in. We've got training platforms, whether they're sales, technical, or parts, to bring them up to speed quickly as well. So yeah, we've got a good setup. We're the manufacturer. We can adapt and change quickly.
Very good. So how does the senior leadership team work on the strategy and make sure that the priorities are being set and understood and followed by the rest of the business?
So basically, this is what we're discussing at the moment within the company. At the start of each year, we'll have set where we want to be and where we need to go moving forward for the year ahead. And that's what we're working on at the moment, actually.
Okay.
But we then, once we've had our meetings and we've sat down, we've made those decisions and allocated who's carrying out what, we filter that through to everybody within the business, even the guys that are out delivering the hot tubs. So everyone knows what we're doing. It's keeping them involved. Plus, anybody within the business can bring back ideas. So when we're talking about marketing and we tell them this is what we have in the past, many times, even the service technicians, because they're out in the front line dealing with customers, they'll have suggestions or excellent ideas that we can utilise for marketing or maybe evolving a system that we use within the company. So we keep everybody in the loop so that they all know where we're going moving forward, which I think is important. For the company to grow as a whole, everybody needs to know where we're heading, what our vision is. So it works well for us anyway.
Very good. So what are some of the big challenges that you have within the business?
I'd say the biggest challenge at the moment is the lack of people looking to buy hot tubs. That is the biggest challenge. In the last year and in 2020 or the tail end of 2020, one of the issues for us in terms of expansion was finding buildings that are available. Because during COVID, a lot of companies obviously had to change how they operate. Longer could have physical contact with people. So all the kind of small units that would work well for a hot tub were all kind of snapped up and used for storage. So trying to find suitable locations and buildings was very difficult and still is. It still is at the moment. So I think that's going to be a challenge, finding suitable locations. We've got some other ideas on that, which we'll work on. I would say here, top secret. And then finding staff. Anybody, whether it's hot tub guys, people in the entertainment business, or other retail businesses, staff has been a real issue at the moment, trying to find staff. Certainly has for us. It's hard to find staff because with our corporate stores, or even with new independent retailers, business-to-business clients, we've got a turnkey solution, a blueprint for this is what you need for a hot tub store, and here's all the system. But if you can't find staff, because our products, it's high end, it needs to be explained, as I'm sure you're aware. If you type in hot tubs, there's a gazillion of them on there. Mm-hmm. So ours isn't really designed for online retailing. There has to have a physical store where people can come, touch, feel, and ask questions and be explained the difference of our product compared to the others that they're looking at out there. Yeah. And that all needs to be done by staff, right? A challenge. That's the two main challenges: is finding locations that are available and then finding staff for them.
Yeah. And what sort of things are you doing to help to mitigate that?
Well, once we've found specific areas, we'll then put out the feelers in terms of staffing. So we've done it in the past when we looked to branch out further up north in the country. We basically advertised jobs for our store that was going to be coming into the area, and by explaining to people we're looking to get a feel for the employment market within your area. So if this job role is of interest to you, we'd love to hear from you. And that worked well. That did work well. So that would be probably the same thing we're going to do now into 2023. But currently, I mean, I use 3 different companies, recruitment agencies, as well as advertising on Indeed and Facebook, and our own online through our own websites. And no one's having success at the moment. In fact, I'd say it's been really, really hard in the market to find people, to find staff. And it's across the board. We deal and interact with a lot of other companies from other markets, and they're saying the same thing. It's just trying to get people. It's crazy. Yeah. People must just be happy sitting at home. It's all they can put it down to.
Yeah, it's certainly something we're seeing across all sorts of sectors as to, very hard to get hold of the staff, which of course means the staff retention becomes a really key aspect as well, doesn't it? So what sort of things do you do to help make people want to stay working with you?
Well, luckily, I mean, the staff we have been with us for a long time. We only find it an issue, as I say, when we're branching out into new areas, just try to find new staff. But I'd say we've got a good wage and salary structure. Certainly for the sales side as well, they've got an excellent commission structure that we offer. We run bonus year. We have employee get-togethers throughout the year as well. We sponsor a lot of events, musical events, horse racing, and sporting events through the year that we invite our staff to come along to as well. So, I think as an employer, because again, I started for the ground up, and I've done those kind of guys' jobs, right? Where you're at the bottom and you've had to work your way up. So I know what it's like. So I think, and our MD in the company knows what it's like. We all came from those kind of backgrounds, which is awesome, because we got a better understanding of what people are looking for. Yeah, we don't just want a slice of pizza. Once, right? So employee retention. I think we've got a handle on that. The main issue is just finding employees. That's the main issue. I don't think anybody's got a secret to how to do that.
Well, and if anybody's listening has got their magic secret, they probably want to keep it to themselves, I would imagine, at the minute.
I'd say so. If you could bottle that and sell it, you'd make a lot of money.
Yeah, good. So you've mentioned you've got the sales of the hot tubs themselves. Some of them are direct, and some of them are through other retailers. And you've got the parts side of it. How are the divisions of the business in terms of the turnover of the business or the split of the business? How does it work? Because some of those are one-off type sales, others are recurring. But I would imagine how's the business split?
I'd say, well, the bulk of the sales is the big units, the hot tubs themselves. That's the bulk of the sales. And then our recurring revenue, that comes from our accessories and our consumables. Obviously, if you buy a hot tub, you're always going to have to sanitize it, maintain the water chemistry, and filtrate it using filter cartridges. So that's our kind of recurring revenue, so to speak. But then on the other side of that, we've got the technical side and the service side, because people be bothered staying in their wooden cabinet in their hot tub, or they can't be bothered changing the water, so they'll pay for us to come and do that. And we certainly find over the winter months that keeps our guys on the road busy, is the service side of it, which is our other revenue stream. So people will call up to book in, have their spa serviced, kind of like a basic spa MOT. And so that keeps revenue coming in when it quietens down on the sales side. And the filters and the consumables, your filters and chemicals, they're all year round. And again, because we've been doing this so long, we've got a good reputation. We've always got stock, so people know they can come to us and be able to get a hold of whatever it is they need. For the main distribution hub here. So that certainly helps us a lot.
So you're able to calculate things like a lifetime value of a customer. Once somebody comes in and buys a spa, do you know how many years they're likely to have that for, and how much they're going to spend on parts and servicing and maintenance?
You could estimate it. I've never actually sat and worked that out. But the thing with our spa is once you buy it, that's it. You'll never need to buy another one. And one of the things that we've found over the past probably 4 or 5 years is customers have bought from us, the families, the kids have now grew up and they've moved out, so they don't need as big a hot tub. So they're having us collect the hot tub, donating it to their sons and daughters for their family, and buying a smaller one off us. Because right, they'll last forever. So we've seen a lot of that. People donating their spas to their kids because they've grew up now and moved out and whatnot, and then the parents are buying a smaller spa. So yeah, you can certainly put a rough estimated figure on it for sure, but when stuff like that happens, it's awesome because you think that's fantastic. It's just the generations taking the hot tub with them. They grew up and mum and dad's getting a new one, and there's a whole new chapter starting.
Brilliant.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, very good. So, I mean, you've been with Arctic Spas for something like 22 years. So, what do you love about it? You know, it's obviously kept you motivated, kept you in the business. So, what's so great about it?
It's just dealing with people. It's all the different people you meet. Because it's retail, you get all walks of life coming in. And I mean, my background was warranty and technical side. That's where I started off. I never used to be in sales. Enjoy speaking to people, so there came a point where it just made sense to move along and come into this side. But that's what keeps me entertained. It's the challenge of the market, the hot tub market in general, and the dealing with different individuals, whether that's the business owners that we deal with or the end users. Yep. It's a great thing to be into. Because everybody, well, not everybody, but a lot of people just like to chat. They like to chat, so it's great to hear their stories and why they want to buy a hot tub. Once they've got the hot tub, it's a fun industry to be in.
Yeah. So what's the most unusual installation that you've done?
Unusual?
People must put hot tubs in all sorts of funny places, do they? Or
oh yeah, all over the place, up mountains, in caves. We've done that. Unusual. There was a person once who they bought our spa, but they didn't want the cabinet on it because they were going to put it inside a marble container. Pneumatic plinth, so if we ever need to service it, they could push a button and it would raise it up out the ground so we could get access to it.
A pneumatic marble plinth. Yeah. Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Very fancy. So we basically remove all the cabinet, peel away all the insulation, and then have this thing fitted into this marbled box in the ground with this pneumatic plinth on it. So I'd say that's probably the most craziest thing we've had to do.
Sounds like something out of a James Bond movie that you mentioned, Blofeld.
Yeah, exactly. And I've not heard from that customer in probably over 10 years now, so everything must be good.
Brilliant. So what, there's some of the things you love about it. What are the things that frustrate you most about the industry?
It's no finding staff. That's frustrating.
Yeah.
A lot of the nonsense, and I'm sure this is the same in any industry, you'll have people out there that sell similar products, but aren't that similar, and porky pies. That's frustrating. We see a lot of it, especially now, and especially off the back of COVID. There was a lot of companies just popped up because you could order a couple of containers for China or wherever in Asia, pretty cheap. Bring them in, flog them, and then just close up the business and move on. You've made a few bucks. Right?
Yeah.
That's extremely frustrating. And we've seen that from day dot over the years. These companies that pop up, sell some hot tubs, and then vanish. We've been here for this amount of time because it's all about the customer's experience and being there to give backup and support. So yeah, that's probably the two most frustrating things: staffing and the companies out there that just they give the industry a bad name by doing stuff like that. And as I say, we've seen a lot of them pop up there during the couple of COVID years we've just had, and they've since now wrapped up and closed up shop. So that's frustrating, because that's good and bad, right? Because now they're gets rid of the wheat for the chaff, as they say. So they're gone now. So we should pick up with the guys that are still here doing things properly. We'll pick up those customers, but then people might be reluctant to buy one because they're thinking, well, you buy a hot tub, the business might be there in a year.
Yeah.
So there is that. But again, we've got a reputation behind us. People know that we've been here forever and we're not going anywhere. So that distills some confidence in them, and they're coming to buy. But yeah, that's the two most frustrating things I'd say now.
Very good. And over that time, over those 22 years or so that you've been with the business, you must have seen quite a lot of change in the business. It sounds like, right, pretty much from the start. So what are some of the key milestones, the key stepping stones you think in the business over that time?
In the business, I'd say, well, from when it started is how quickly it grew. It was crazy fast. Started off in a little 4,500 square foot warehouse, and within 12 months of me starting, the place was rammed. So we'd have to come in early in the morning to empty all the stock out just so we could have space to move and get our orders ready for the week ahead. So we moved the warehouse into a bigger warehouse, which was about 15 times the size. Oh. And we were only in there for, I think, 2 or 3 years, and we'd outgrew that. And then we'd moved into this place. So yeah, it was the speed that it grew at. That was probably the biggest thing. So those years when we're seeing us move and grow, it was just fantastic. Yeah, that would have been the biggest milestones, the moves over the years.
And what were some of the challenges then to enable you to keep control of that growth? That rapid growth. It's great because you see you can see all the increase and all of those good things, but also can throw out some challenges, can't it, in keeping control of it? So, what sort of things come to mind from that period?
We were lucky because that's why we based ourselves here just outside Worcestershire, is because it's central location for distribution. We've got access to the M5, M6 quickly, so we can get stock and move products up and down the country easily because of the access routes. So that was already there when we first started off. That's why we chose this location. But we also early on got relationships running with some really good transportation companies.
Okay.
Both for UK movement and for exporting out into Europe very early on, and we're still using them to this day. So that certainly helped us a lot moving forward. And as we grew so quickly, was to get the supply out there and get the product in. We built good relationships with companies. Again, we're still using some of those companies today to bring in our goods from Canada, ship from. So I think by doing that, or certainly the managing director doing that back in the day, that helped us a lot as we grew, because it was quite crazy. It was really, really quick growth, working 7 days a week, very late at night, just to get stuff done and get the orders out the door. But It's worth it. It's certainly worth it.
And were you exporting right from the beginning, or was there a sort of a stage where you did UK only and then exporting?
No, we were exporting from the beginning because basically that's why we're looking to open up an operation here, because they managed to sign up some dealers in Spain and in Norway as well. So that's why they were looking to have a UK distribution centre to provide support, etc., for those guys. So as soon as we came on board, so to speak, we had dealers set up over there. So straight away we could start trading with them and supporting them. So
what are some of the challenges then for, if we're thinking about businesses that might be listening and thinking about exporting or dealing internationally? What are some of the challenges that you've had to deal with? I'd
certainly say for exporting, make sure you set yourself up with a really good haulage company if you're transporting goods. If anybody needs links to those people, I can provide them to you, Kevin.
Okay.
So yeah, I'd say that's key. In fact, that's the major thing, is set yourself up with a haulage company.
Yeah.
Provides good rates and can handle all the paperwork. because that was the nightmare thing with Brexit, was the amount of paperwork. But the guys we use have been very good. They deal with it all. We don't need to do too much here. And we're shipping obviously big items. Hot tubs and swim spas are massive. So some of those are container loads.
Yeah.
So our guys can handle that. Plus, they can also handle the small shipments we do, like just a little single pallet with some chemicals or filter. Yeah, I'd say that's the main thing, is getting yourself a relationship running with a really good haulage company.
Okay.
As I say, I've got contacts for that if anybody's looking for that information.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. We'll get your contact details out towards the end of the episode so that people can contact you or for that or anything else. What about things like fluctuations in currency exchange rates? How do you deal with that?
So basically, we set ourselves out again at the start. We set ourselves out so we know we can play within these margins. We know our perimeters. Because obviously the exchange rate changes all the time, every day, right? So you need to factor that in so you can take the hit if you need to take the hit. But also you might be winning, right? It just depends on where it goes. So at the start of each year, the accounts manager, or company secretary, and our MD, they'll sit down and discuss that. Because everything we bring in is and US dollars as well, right? So they'll sit down and agree what the kind of exchange rate they should be factoring in before we do our pricing.
Right. So
our retail pricing and our retail pricing. And as I say, sometimes we'll win, sometimes we'll lose, because there's no easy way to do that, as I'm sure people can appreciate, because the exchange rates fluctuate daily, all the time. So
you're buying in dollars, but then are you selling in local currency in each of the countries that you're operating in? Yep.
That's the majority of it. Occasionally you might have a big dealer, a big retailer. They might buy directly, so then we'll just bill them in Canadian or US, depending where they're taking the stock from. Mm-hmm. But for the majority of the time, we're just charging them in the local currency, so euros. Euros mainly. Yeah.
So how do you decide what's a sensible margin then to operate with to give you that contingency?
That's kind of hard to explain.
Yeah. Okay.
That's hard to explain, because obviously you've got your margin that you want your dealers to be making when they're selling the products on, and then we obviously have to be making a bit of a margin bringing the stuff in as the distributor. So it's a kind of juggling act, but it's always done at the end of the year before we go into the new year. It was okay. We didn't have to worry about it too much because the prices weren't changing. Our prices weren't changing. The only issue we had then was transportation costs, which is force majeure, right? Those guys can change up and down the price whenever they want, and that's still the case. They've kind of settled at the moment. They're still way higher than they used to be pre-pandemic. This year we do have a price increase that's coming in, so will be effective as of January 1st. So we've had to sit down and our managing director and company secretaries had to sit down and work that out. But it's a juggling act for sure. But then once it's set, that's it. It's set for the year.
Okay. So you've absorbed the increase in transport costs within the price that was set earlier on in the year. Then?
Yeah, we've done that for a long time, and then we couldn't hold it anymore. So we had to put a price increase in place. We just couldn't cover it. Cover it.
Yeah.
But we've seen that across our industry. For other supply tubs to the UK, they were doing the same. They were just you're just trying to protect your dealers as much as possible. But there'll come a point where it's just not feasible anymore financially. So you have to put an increase in place to cover these additional costs. And the thing is, people were expecting it because they know what's going on. So that kind of eased the blow, so to speak.
Yeah, definitely. So what do you attribute that rapid growth to at the beginning?
Because it was such a new product.
Okay.
Because hot tubs didn't really have a place here in the UK when we came on board back in 2000 when they started. It was about 2000 when I came on. But they never existed. They were just starting to become a new thing, and within 2 years it was just crazy the amount of numbers that were getting out the door as people became more and more accustomed to hot tubs. And then I think back then as well, when you were doing like the trade shows and then county fairs and everything else, it was just eye-catching. People were, whoa, that wow factor, that's a hot tub. Still, some people still say it to this day, like, oh, I'd need to win the lottery to buy that, which isn't the case, right? So yeah, but back then it was, within a couple of years, it was just crazy how busy it was. And it was just because it was a new thing. It was a new thing, a new fad. And everything was running fantastic until the financial crash.
Right.
And that was like a big reset button. So that was fun and challenging as well.
Yeah, so and I guess that would have been at a stage of the business where you had less of a base of recurring revenue. So how did you manage to get through that period, the financial crisis?
Well, we were sensible for a start. So luckily we've got a good managing director and head of accounts. So the money's, we've always safe and sound, so the business grows, we feed it back into the business. We don't take out any wacky bonuses or anything like that. So there's always money, the money's always fed back into the business. And that's, I would say, what helped us survive the financial crash, for sure. We've seen guys, I'm sure everybody's seen them in other industries, where they're making money, but they're driving the Ferrari, they're buying the big fancy yacht, spending money willy-nilly, and then all of a sudden there's a downturn and their business is gone.
Yep.
Right? So we were sensible. And that's what helped us survive, because it was like a light switch in our industry. You were going from putting out loads of product to nothing, like a tap being turned off back then. So yeah, it was hard times, but we just knuckled down, the same as what we're doing now. You just knuckle down and you get through it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So do you actively look to keep a certain buffer in available cash, a certain number of maybe of months of operating expenditure to one side? Is that something the company does?
For sure, yeah.
Yeah.
All the years, yeah. You have to. And especially in our industry, because come the winter time, it's going to go quiet. It always does. The sales drop off, especially December, because unless you're selling toys and tinsel, you're not going to be making lots of money, because people are switched on to Christmas mode. And then January, that's normally the month where everybody's clearing credit card bills. So again, they're not really out shopping for luxury hot tubs. Mad not to have a buffer in place to see you through those quieter times, right? And
I'd be interested to know roughly how many months buffer you aim for.
Well, that's a hard thing to put. I could probably say if we never sold another hot tub, we could last 3 years without selling one.
Ah, okay. On the combination of your recurring revenue and the reserves that you've got. Yeah, that's interesting, because people Bill Gates is famed for saying that he aimed to keep 12 months of operating expenditure available, so that if they didn't, so they could ride out 12 months without having to make any huge change in the business. And for most of us as small and medium-sized businesses, it's what's the right sort of numbers, because some of us are obviously at a very early stage of the business and we're trying to make ends meet and we don't really have enough to put to one side. But at some point we need to get ourselves to that point where we do have a little bit of a buffer, and certainly
you certainly need a pot.
Yeah.
And that's with our last meeting this year. That's our pot. I mean, we could still operate for 3 years if we never put another hot tub out the door.
Yeah, very good.
That would be very annoying, but we'd still be here at the end of it, and our staff would still have jobs. Because at the end of the day, that's what we're looking after. It's not just us. We know the guys through the back who are out delivering the hot tubs, the people in accounts, myself, bills to pay, kids to feed, mortgages to go, pay off, holidays to pay for, etc., etc. So that's what drives us, is making sure all of these people have still got a job at the end of the day as well, right?
Yeah. So are there any things that you think you or the business you think would do differently if you, with a bit of hindsight, any things you got wrong perhaps along the way or could have done better?
I think for us, if we could have maybe done something differently for our online presence, to be able to sell online. I don't know what that would be. But if we had done something differently at that end, that would make a huge difference to where we are now, I think. If we were offering it online and sales were there online, if we could have done something differently early on to set us up for that. Because, I mean, when we started the company back then, the internet was in its infancy. Yeah. I remember for stock, at the start of every morning, we'd to fax out stock sheets, and then somebody would sell a spa, so then we'd have to re-fax it out to the 14 dealers that we had back then, so that they were always up to date. So that was a nuisance. Then you had the old dial-up tone while we were waiting to get online. So, yeah, the internet was in its infancy back then, but I think if we could have focused on setting ourselves up better for e-commerce, for the hot tubs, I think we'd be in a different position now.
So are some of your competitors doing a lot more online then?
Yeah, I mean, well, competitors are they sell hot tubs, but they're quality-wise, they're not at the same level as us.
Yeah.
So they're not the same price bracket. We've found that all throughout the years. When people come into a store, they're conditioned or preconditioned to think a hot tub costs £4,000 or £5,000. And yes, there is stuff out there that costs that, but the easiest way, well, you know yourself, you can buy a television for £100. It's the same size, but it costs £300, right?
Yeah.
Because it's built better, it's got more superior components in it, it's got a better warranty, etc., etc. Same with cars. A lot of people use the car industry to compare with hot tubs, right? So they know the difference between a Ford and a Mercedes, right?
Mm-hmm.
That kind of thing. So I think, yeah, that's why I'm saying if we'd have set ourselves up differently for an online presence, been able to get that message across that this is a different beast,
yeah.
I think that would have helped us in a different way and help us grow in a different way as well.
Yeah, but still in a way that would keep your strong positioning as being a premium supplier. Yeah,
that's the thing. It's very hard to get that across just using pictures and video. It's very difficult. When you've got someone in a store though and they can feel the actual product, because we've heard that loads of times they come in and the words are, you can just feel this is built solid.
Yeah.
Built differently, right? And it's getting that across via websites very difficult.
So what's your main tactics for driving people into the stores then to get the footfall, to make the sales?
I'd say that the main thing for getting them in this, that's a hard one to answer now, because people are they're now conditioned to no coming to stores.
Yeah.
So we're still finding we're doing video calls a lot.
Okay.
So because people just like to sit on their couch and get all this information, which is fine. We can do them, but driving them to the stores, that's really or just finding, what I'm after here to ask everyone is, what do they find works to generate leads, to generate customers? What's still our websites, the website. So we have our websites, and ours explain the product in in-depth detail, really. Can be a bit over technical actually, but that's still our main focal point for drawing in leads and inquiries. Yeah, because anybody that comes to the store, like say this one here, we're out in the middle of nowhere, so if somebody walks in the door, they're either lost or they've came to look at something that we sell, because there's nothing else here where we are. Online. So we know that's anybody that comes to the store, that's their first visit, so to speak, to Arctic Spas, is they've been online and found us. And now they've made the effort to actually come to the store because they want to look at the goods and ask the questions. Yeah. But a lot more people nowadays, we've seen it, especially over since 2018, they'll spend more time emailing back and forth with you. Not talking on the phone, not giving you a number, just emailing questions back and forth. And again, it's trying to convey yourself, because if you've, like we are just now, we can see body language, we can chat, right? Mm-hmm. But if you've not got that and you're just using text, you're trying to convey yourself and get that across. It can be difficult as well. But I think we've been doing it long enough now, we've got a good handle on it.
Mm. Sure. Okay. So if we were going to have a follow-up call in 5 years' time, for example, what has to have happened for you to consider that a success over that time? What are the big things?
5 years' time, I'd like to be sitting with you saying that we've got another 6 corporate stores opened up. Yeah. And we've added another extra 10 to 15 dealers onto our roster. If that was the conversation we'd be having then, that would be success in my opinion, that would be success for us.
Yeah, brilliant. And what are you, I guess I was going to ask you, what are the key challenges for that? You're going to say people again, aren't you?
Yeah, people and available locations. That's going to be the issue. Yeah, that's going to be the issue. Yeah, I don't know when that'll change. hopefully next year that'll have changed and we'll be on to something that resembles normality pre-pandemic. But yeah, it's people in available locations. That's going to be the main issues to achieve those targets that I want to achieve within the business. They'll be the main issues.
All right. Brilliant. Well, it's been fascinating talking to you. I've got one or two questions I'd like to finish off with everybody. One of those is, if you were to go back to your younger self, and maybe it's at the time you joined Arctic Spas, or maybe it's even younger, I don't know. But what advice would you give yourself?
Don't have kids too early on.
Okay.
Because they're very expensive. That would be the advice I'd give myself. Especially
if they fly the nest, and then you've got to give them a new spa.
Yeah, exactly. And you've got more than one of them.
Yeah.
It's even more expensive. So that would be my bit of advice if I went back to my younger self, way back. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Not had that one before. That's good. What about are there any particular apps or bit of software, things that make your life easier in the business that you use a lot?
Much easier is Zoho, which is our CRM system.
Yeah.
And Trello.
Okay.
We're keeping track of where we're up to, because obviously with Trello, for anybody that doesn't use it, you can invite as many people as you want to have access to those targets and goals and the things that you've got going on within the company that need to be completed by X date or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's a really useful tool. We've been using that for the past 3 years, something like that, 3-4 years. So it's a really useful tool, we find, Trello.
Great.
It's so good at organising and keeping track where everybody's up to, and people can just jump in whenever they want to add comments, suggestions, or to let us know they've completed such and such. So, and Zoho, obviously, CRM system, but it's got a plethora of bolt-on apps that are really handy as well, for planning, to managing email campaigns, also managing your social media pages as well. Really useful tool, Zoho.
Very good. Excellent. Any particular books or podcasts or things like that you listen to or read to keep yourself being...
See, I've never really read books on business or nothing. J.R.R. Tolkien, that's my kind of thing to go and read. Yeah. So if you fancy some of that, crack on.
So Lord of the Rings, all that stuff.
Exactly. Podcasts, I'd say, I think the only one I listened short period was a guy called Tom Bilyeu, I think you pronounce his name. He's an American guy.
Okay.
So basically he started with nothing. He started making protein bars in his flat, and then he ended up building $1 billion business off the back of making protein bars, and now he does podcasts on how he kept motivated, how he motivated himself to do it, how he keeps doing it, and he interviews different people, for celebrities, movie stars, big business owners, their take, what drives you, what kept you going, what do you do to stay focused. So I found that quite interesting. Certainly found that quite interesting.
Very good.
There is snippets. A lot of it's just waffle, right? People like to blow their own trumpet, especially celebrities.
Yep.
There is bits you can take from it that you can certainly implement yourself. Excellent.
Well, we'll look that up and try and put that in the show notes as well. Fantastic. So, thank you very much for being my guest today. So that's great, Roland. Thank you. If people would like to get hold of you or Arctic Spas, what's the best way for them to do that?
Just via the website, so arcticspas.co.uk, or they can email info@arcticspas.co.uk. That's the best way to get in touch with us. And we're on there immediately responding. So that's what we do. Brilliant. Super. Roland, thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Kevin. Take care. Don't forget to take a look at www.bizsmarts.co.uk to access a great range of resources to help you in your scale-up journey. So that's bizsmarts.co.uk, which is bizsmarts.co.uk.
This has been a Monkey Pants Productions podcast.